Hello everyone, Andre here. In today's one chord a week video, I'll show you a chord that is very simple but also very useful, and it adds quite a bit of dimension and character to very simple minor chords. So check it out. And of course, we're talking about the minor 7th chord. It's one of my favorite chords and is very common and popular in different kinds of music, such as pop and rock, for example, where we want to add a certain depth to our chords, but we can't go overboard with extensions and extra notes just because the music tends to be quite direct. Sometimes it's quite simple. And also sometimes we use distortion, and the more notes you pile onto a chord, the more difficult to manage it becomes when it comes to playing heavy or rock music. And so that's one application of it. Of course, you'll find it in the blues. As a matter of fact, if you record yourself playing 1-4-5, just a simple 12-bar chord progression for the blues with minor 7th chords, you'll have a great jam for all your minor pentatonic licks, and it sounds great. The minor blues is certainly an important part of the blues sound. Of course, it functions as a 2 chord on the ubiquitous jazz 2-5-1 chord progression, so that's another application. There's many more, so it's definitely a chord you want to learn, you want to master, and you want to make it part of your toolbox. All right, so let's see how it's built. The formula for the minor 7th chord is actually pretty straightforward. It's built over a regular minor triad. So the minor triad is made up of a root, in this case is C. Remember, every chord in this series will be given to you in C, all right? So it's a lot easier for you to compare amongst them. It's easier for you to decide, well, this is my happy chord, this is my sad chord, this is my unsure chord, and this is my mystic chord, and so on. It's very important that you own these chords. There's a certain sound, a certain emotion, a certain color, whatever you want to call it, that each of these chords will represent for you. So it's very important that you understand how each of them sound. All right, so they're all in C. So going back to the formula, we have C as the root, we have a minor third, which is E flat, then we have a G, which is the 5th, and then we're going to add a minor 7th. Now the minor 7th is quite easy to find. You go to the octave, which is C, and go one whole step or 2 frets down. So this note here, which is a B flat. All right, so all the notes are C, E flat, G, and B flat. All right, so this is how you build a minor 7th chord. And now, of course, let's talk about the sound. A beautiful sound, this minor 7th chord. And let's talk about it just a little bit. Remember, these are only my ideas and impressions of a sound of a chord, and certainly they don't have to be yours, and they probably won't be, and that's fine. The important thing here that you learn from this is that you should spend time with a chord and make up your mind about it, form an opinion, and that way you'll be able to use it and pick it amongst all other chords depending on what you want to communicate emotionally, or the needs of a song or the needs of a melody. All right, so to me the minor 7th chord kind of does to minor what the major 7th chord does to major. Remember in that video about the major 7th chord, I talked about how, to me, the major 7th chord makes the major chord a bit less major, less happy and less defined. And the same happens with minor, because whereas minor really doesn't leave you a lot of room here, this is minor, right? And it's sad, and it's quite clear. The minor 7th chord has a different sound to it. Not only more sophisticated in a way, but also more open. And I think the reason is that there's an interval here, the minor 7th, which is a very lively interval. It's a lively sound. And when put together with the minor 7th, it lifts it up. And so to me, it breaks away from that specific sad sounding chord. I used it in many different kinds of songs, from very rock sounding music to mystic things, and to very open sounding and bright, and also for sadder songs. But it's just a very versatile chord. And what I also found is that this chord really absorbs what's around it. So the chord before it and the chord after it, or the whole sense of a progression. This seems to really thrive on whatever is around it. So it's a good chord to learn, of course, and let's see how you can play it on a few areas of the neck. Alright, so as always I'm going to show you 3 different fingerings for this chord on the fretboard. Now remember, 3 is not enough. It's a good starting point, and if you're new to this chord, of course this will get you started. But if you really like a chord, you should probably learn like 10 or 15 or even 20 different positions and voicings. And the reason also is that depending on where and how you play, the sound will vary slightly between one and the other, and eventually you'll have your own chord that you like for example, for faster rhythm stuff. You have your chord you like strummed, and you have your chord that you know will work with a bit of distortion, and all that stuff will come in handy when you're composing music or just improvising. All right, but here's the 3 positions I'm going to show you today. The first position is a very common one, very useful, and it's quite simple to play. It goes like this. We have the first finger on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. Then we play the ring finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string. Now for the next string, we have to go back to fret 3, so we have to use the index finger again with a little bar, like that. And then the 2nd finger will play the 4th fret of the 2nd string, which is the minor 3rd. That makes it minor, right? You can stop here, that's already enough. This is a perfectly fine minor 7th chord, but you can also press down with the same bar here on the 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the 1st string and play the G again. Makes it sound a bit more open, a bit more bright. You know, it can be useful, so this is the first one. The next one is also a classic and is very easy to write down on tablature. It's all on the 8th fret. But to play it, you have to remember to start with this finger. Don't try to play with this one, because it won't work. You know, this finger is the longest in the hand, and so we use it on the bottom string. So the 8th fret of the 6th string, we use the middle finger, and then the ring finger will play the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings on the 8th fret as well. We skip the 5th string, okay? If I play with my fingers, I just don't play the 5th string, but if you're using a pick, make sure you're muting the 5th string with this finger, okay? See that? I'm muting it, and this is the chord. Very useful, very easy to move around, easy to modify when we add different notes on top of it, so it's a chord you should definitely learn. And finally, one that sounds a bit different, because we have a minor 3rd in the bass. So we have on the 11th fret the 2nd finger on the 6th string, and then we skip again the 5th string, and then we play 10 on the 4th, 12 with the little finger on the 3rd, and then an 11 on the 2nd string with my 4th finger. Beautiful sounding chord, also quite easy to move. Okay, just remember that the root is here on the 1st finger on the 4th string. Okay, it's not here, otherwise it won't work. And as always, let's close with what scales can I play over this chord. 2 spring to mind very easily. One of them is the minor pentatonic. We talked about how these chords can be used in a minor blues context. So certainly you can use a minor pentatonic over this chord for a great minor blues sound. So that's pretty self-explanatory. The other scale will certainly be Dorian for me, because of course you could play minor or Phrygian over this chord, but to me Dorian represents what the chord represents as compared to a minor chord. So I said that it makes it brighter and livelier, and so that's what Dorian does to a minor scale. So the minor scale, when I make it Dorian, becomes brighter because of this major 6th. And so I like to combine them. I like to use the minor chord, the minor 7th chord, with this minor 6th of the Dorian scale. If you don't know about Dorian, please do check out the other videos we did, especially in the live streams. There will be a link somewhere. And but it's a very simple scale. It's a minor scale with a raised 6th, okay? And I suggest you play a little short progression. Put this on a looper and jam over it with, in this case, would be A Dorian. and you'll be surprised. It sounds very good. And so this is it for a little video on minor 7th chords. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you haven't done so, please consider subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing with your friends. It really helps out a lot. And I will see you very soon for a new one. If you have any ideas or any suggestions for more chords or some chords you want to learn more about, feel free to let me know in the comments below. All right, have a great one. See you soon. Bye-bye.